All right, well, we're ready to go whenever you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready.
Yep.
I'm ready.
All right, well. Okay, don't do that.
This is the New Leaf Podcast.
All right, well, welcome everyone to another side, but this one is a little more important to me, episode of the New Leaf Podcast. We're going to take a break from our usual rambling and talking of video games for a very, very special and very, very life-changing topic today. And today we have a very special guest besides Christian, and unfortunately Tyler and Tanner are on a cruise, so they're enjoying the nice weather while we are not, but we still get to enjoy each other, and that's all that matters. So besides Christian, we have a very good friend of mine. I haven't known him forever like I've known Christian, but I would still consider Ethan like a brother now. I care greatly about him, and he's been very, very good, probably the best I've ever seen to one of my very good high school friends, and so from that we kind of just became friends, and I don't really ever foresee us venturing away from each other. So Ethan, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Taylor. So I'm engaged to Emily, your friend from high school. I don't foresee us not being friends for a long time too. So I'm a senior biology major, graduate in 2 weeks, actually. 3 weeks from today. 2 weeks in class.
Nice.
Yeah. I am a youth pastor at my local church, my church that I grew up in. I actually just got hired on, so I get to live in the parsonage for free. So that was a huge blessing. And
that's pretty nice.
Awesome. Yeah. That's
yeah.
Awesome.
You tell me more newlywed couples that get to live for free first few years of marriage, so that'll be awesome.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. And then, I'm hoping to work at Children's one day, and I don't know, figure out where God's going to take us from there. But
what is that, Children's?
I'm looking to do clinical research for a little while. I'd love to go into full-time ministry one day, though.
Oh, so is that like a hospital?
Yeah,
Children's Hospital. Yeah,
Children's Hospital. So that's awesome. Ethan barely said anything, and I feel like anyone who's never known him pretty much knows everything about him now. So that's pretty awesome. So,
Yeah.
But this episode is going to be about one of our gaming drives. We kind of spoke on how we're going to do 3 this year. One being the Operation
Supply Drop.
Supply Drop. Thank you for finishing my sentence, Christian. And then also Extra Life. And then our last, which is actually the one we're going to do first, which I just said it backwards, is a sex trafficking awareness gaming drive. And Ethan is probably one of the most passionate people I've ever met on this subject. Emily is not far behind, but it's definitely Ethan's suit. So I really wanted to try and get you on here and talk to us about it, because I don't like talking to people about something that they kind of half-butt, and I know that your heart is in this, and this is where you're supposed to be. So I was really happy to hear that you could join us today. So, but why don't you, I know you know the facts and the information, and like I said before, you can say whatever you want on this podcast. I don't really care. I mean, I know you're not going to cuss. So that's kind of the only thing that I don't want you to do. So, and you're not going to do that. So,
Right.
So, give us a little insight on sex trafficking and how bad it really is. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people that think of sex trafficking kind of overlook what it really is and how often it happens. So.
Yeah, like is it like really that big of a deal? Because like Taylor said, nobody really pays attention to it that much, I guess, in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah. So kind of like, God's always been good to me in that he just wired me up to love people, to love people. And so, I, 3 summers ago, I got to go to China and Bangkok, and I saw human trafficking for the first time. I saw some of the victims. So human trafficking is when sex, labor, or just using people as like money, where, look, I'll pay for this ox as a human, for a human. When that is done, when people are being traded like that. And so it's real ambiguous definition, and that's part of the reason why awareness is so hard to raise about it.
Is it basically like modern day slavery of any form?
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So average estimates have the victims worldwide about 30 million. And
that is unreal.
That is hard to think about, but I looked this up today. The tri-state, all of Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana are 23 million. So more than the tri-state are enslaved right now in the world. It's the second biggest world crime behind only drug trafficking. And it's quickly overtaking drug trafficking because, wow, I don't know what I just tried to say, drug trafficking.
Drug trafficking.
Yeah. Because people are renewable. So, as harsh as that sounds, all the drug people are switching over to just buying and selling people. So, I mean, so that's some of the crazy stats. But then, like, what makes it real personal is the average age of abduction in Thailand. So these are the kids who get abducted to go into this industry. Average age in Thailand is 9. And I've got a little sister that is 9 years old. And that just upsets my stomach. But then you go to America and you would think, oh, well, it's nowhere near as bad. Average age of abduction in America is 12. So, I'm sure you guys know some 9-year-olds or 12-year-olds, and it's just sickening to think of, so.
Yeah, I have a sister who's 12.
I'm gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of even more of a big scale, but then Cincinnati, second worst city in America at, recruiting human trafficking victims, either stealing them or coercing them into it, is Toledo, Ohio. So second worst behind only Miami because of the huge Hispanic population there. So, Cincinnati is a huge port for all of the Midwest because if you draw a circle around Cincinnati, you get about 200-mile radius, you get New York, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, St. Louis, you get a bunch of big cities. And then also you've got 75, 74, 71, 275, and a dying airport. So security isn't as heightened. You can send victims in and out of the airport easier. So,
and for those of you who don't know, Cincinnati is in Ohio. For those of you that are not geographically inclined, and if you don't know where Cincinnati is at, then I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with you, but anyways, go on, Ethan.
Yeah, sorry about that. And also, all the numbers that I just ran off, those were roads that highly connect Cincinnati to everything. So, I think 75 goes all the way to Florida, to what, like Minnesota, maybe Michigan. So
it connects the north to the south. That's all I know. So
yeah, so it's just a major Midwest hub, really. But just a few days ago, there was a news report that Wilder, Kentucky, northern Kentucky, small little town, a woman was trafficking her 10-year-old for crack money. So it is literally everywhere. And if you're familiar at all with Kentucky, Wilder is not a metropolis whatsoever. So
no,
yeah,
and that's the sad thing is that we're putting people on the same level as, day-to-day items that people would, we're using people as currency, I guess, is the phrase. And if there's something that people want, they're going to find any way to get it, just like that mother. Like, if she could get that money, those drugs, because she could, sell her kid off, then she's probably going to do it. And that's just...
Yeah. Exactly. Everywhere that there's a money shortage, there's going to be human trafficking. And that's just the reality of it.
And that's like, you guys are mainly, you're in Kentucky, and and Allison, my girlfriend, goes to University of Cincinnati, and I'll be darned if someone tried to do something. I'll get on a plane pretty quick, but
yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's such a scary thought and a scary number, really, and it's 100% accurate. So
it's hard to quantify 30 million. It's just insane.
You talk about 30 million. That's for the whole world, right?
Yeah.
You know what the stats are for just America? Is it very high in America? Victims from America?
Yeah. I don't know what the stats are, but I can tell you this. The money spent, there are only about 5 countries higher than America in money spent on human trafficking. And so there's probably not a whole lot of American victims, but there are Asian victims that are brought over here and African victims brought over here. So
Americans are more consumers than
right.
importers
the stereotype.
and exporters.
Hey, we're all about capitalism over here in America, so
exactly, yeah. So America's a huge problem country, just maybe not with victims being taken from here. So
in America, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like America, instead of being the defending nation it should be, is almost an enabler with every avenue that we see in media or what have you anywhere. And it kind of, they almost subliminally promote sex trafficking every day. I think that's true. Maybe I'm crazy, but
yeah, in America, everyone knows sex sells, and so it's a lust-driven nation a lot of times. Lust for one thing or another, and
right.
Yeah.
But Christian, go ahead. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
What was I going to say? Oh, do you know, what's being done to combat human trafficking in America?
Yeah. So America has the twofold thing about having resources is that you have resources to help it and you have resources to hurt it. And so, one of the biggest things that America is able to do is buy those fair trade goods and combat it that way. But unfortunately, there are just not enough agencies over here that are able to take victims off the streets, get them in safe houses, and rehabilitate them. Especially because of the drug epidemic. Heroin doesn't help Cincinnati at all because these women will get hooked on heroin, and their pimps are the only ones that can help them get that fix. And so, you throw all that together, and a lot of these agencies that can help them establish a steady income can't until they've gone through rehab.
The drug habit.
Yeah.
Do you think drugs are tied pretty closely to human trafficking?
Every instance that I've seen, they have always been involved. So I've got to see a fair amount just because of the work I've been able to do in Cincinnati. And, I would say anywhere from 80 to 90% of the women that are being trafficked have something to do with drugs. So.
You said that you went to China. What kind of stuff have you seen locally, like in America?
Well, I've been able to meet victims from Cincinnati too. Unfortunately, it's just really easy to meet them. If you go up and down McMicken, and if you're downtown for any amount of time,
Yep.
you can meet the women who, in the court of law, would say are prostituting themselves.
Yes.
And they would get in trouble, but in reality, they have a pimp who has coerced them into doing this, and that's when it becomes trafficking, is when a third party gets involved. So,
Right.
There's an agency called Off the Streets in Cincinnati, and this is one that's been really helpful for me in my project. I did a capstone project where I made a documentary on human trafficking in Thailand and Cincinnati. So, Off the Streets, what they can do is they have the women come to them because they can't like kidnap them back off the streets. That's also trafficking, actually. So
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
illegal.
yeah, they have the women come to them, and then they work with law enforcement to protect them from their pimp. They've actually had pimps come from Florida all the way up to Cincinnati to get one of his girls back, and so they have to be really careful when they're doing that. But then they establish a steady income. They sometimes go to school. I was able to go to a graduation ceremony where these women were graduating from the program, and one of them was late because she was coming out from school, and the other was late because she had a full-time job now. And so there's some really good stuff going on in Cincinnati. The local government is more behind it than they are in other cities. So we've got that going for us, but we're going to have to try to nip it in the butt if we're going to try to stop it from becoming a New York or Las Vegas. So,
And that's I think you you said something that kind of maybe remind me of, things that I've seen, but you said usually like you said, the prostituting thing, there's also usually a pimp somewhere. If there's a woman like that around, her pimp is probably not far behind.
right.
And I mean, that's everywhere. I've seen it here in Waikiki. It's horrible here in Waikiki.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got here, it was like the cool thing, to go to Waikiki and like hang out. And then you realize when these women come up on you and you don't, want to have any, you don't want their business, obviously. And then you see them run, or you see a guy watching you. It's just automatic. You know that they're owned and they're a part of,
Right.
They don't own themselves. And it's pitiful, really, and it's sad because there's nothing you can do for them.
Right.
At that point in time, when you see them out in that situation, you can't really do anything for them.
Right.
And that's what's hard about it. I mean, anything else, it's going to be like a bad comparison, but if you see someone down the road, you can witness to anybody. But with people like that, you might not ever see them again because they might get sold somewhere else.
Right.
It's not like an everyday person that you just see every day. I don't know. It's sad.
Yeah.
I guess it makes me sad. It makes me sad to see that kind of thing because I want to love people and I want the best for everyone. And when you can't help them, it hurts you. It kind of puts a strain on you. So
Yeah.
but,
Is there anything that just the average Joe person can do to help out in any way?
Yeah. So Taylor kind of touched on it a little bit. I think knowing when it happens is a crucial step in getting, start moving in the right direction. So when you see a woman that isn't talking for herself, when there's a man standing not too far away, a lot of times human trafficking victims won't look you in the eye. And so it's being aware of when you're approached by a victim and what's going on with that. And also, we shouldn't, I'm very guilty of this, just as many women traffic women as men do. And so
right.
it's just crazy. But so knowing when it's going on, and there is actually a Cincinnati hotline for human trafficking that I just realized I neglected to look up beforehand. But it's easy to find. Aaron Meyer is the contact person for that. But so doing that, but then also I'll get into this in a second, but because this is kind of a whole nother soapbox. But prayer, average Joe, that is first and foremost the best thing that we can do.
Right.
Pray for those victims, and I'll get into what we can pray for in just a second. But and then also, really, the coin flip of being in America is our finances. Believe me, I'm a college student, so I know I'm saving for a wedding and a honeymoon, so I know money is at a premium. But like, if you got $5 laying around, I guarantee you, off the streets can find something to go with that $5. So, yeah, that's in the Cincinnati area, and also the fair trade for international missions that are helping human trafficking victims. That's the biggest thing that I could say the average Joe could do. Kind of like that.
Well, I want to talk about... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to see, do you want me to go into what breaks my heart about this, though? Because this has been a lot of facts and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But,
of course.
Yeah,
you want to hear that? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You can't...
So,
yeah, never mind. Go ahead.
So, human trafficking, non-believers can get behind ending human trafficking. Because it's disgusting and it's awful and gross. But like what breaks my heart about it, there is not a human monstrosity that spits in the face more of the gospel than human trafficking. Because here's the thing, we're never going to see the end of human trafficking. It's driven by lust and greed, and we know from the Bible that sin is not going to go away, ever.
Yep.
And
so, it's been around since the Bible times also.
Right. Yeah, it's got 4,000 years worth of history backing it up. So, we're not going to see the end of human trafficking. So, riddle me this, what's the only thing that does defeat sin? And that would be the gospel. So, God says that the whole point of Calvary is God says that you're priceless, and human trafficking says that your price is diminishing every time you're used. God says at Calvary that you're worth everything, and human trafficking says that you're worth market value, whatever somebody's going to pay for you that night. God says that I will sacrifice for you, and human trafficking says that you will be sacrificed for me to get ahead. And God says that He will love us, and human trafficking says you will never be good enough to be loved. And so everything that Jesus and Calvary stands for is just trampled on by what human trafficking says and communicates. And so, I never want to be known as an activist, because activists fight losing battles. They're never going to see the end of what they're fighting against. I want to be known as a missionary that carries the gospel to human trafficking victims. Mm-hmm. When I was in Thailand, so in Thailand culture, women support their parents when the parents can't support themselves anymore. So if a set of parents don't have a girl, they just tell their son that he's been born in a boy's body but has a girl spirit. So there's no respectable Thai business that's going to hire a heterosexual because of not a heterosexual, a transsexual, because of the culture over there. And so what happens with them is they go into human trafficking, and Westerners go over there and use them. And so I met one of these lady boys, is what they're called, and I was just talking with them, and every insecurity that I heard come from them was an insecurity that preyed on my heart too. So here is a Thai lady boy that comes from poverty talking to a white middle class little poster boy Christian from the Baptists, and we are struggling with the same insecurities. And so that is what finally just made it break with me, was that this is something that's a whole lot more common than circumstance. This is a sin and gospel problem. And so with that being true, with it's spitting in the face of the gospel so much, how the church reacts to human trafficking really shows how much we value the gospel. Because, and right now, the Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati churches, there's not a single agency that's church-born in Kentucky.
The church doesn't like to talk about that kind of stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the truth.
That's one of the things I tell a lot of people, that I'm thankful that I was raised in a church that talks about like the nitty gritty and that kind of, I mean, maybe not necessarily that, unfortunately, but like you said, the church likes to talk about the happy feels and the joy and all that kind of things. And that is part of the gospel. I mean, it's love.
Right.
But everyone else, the people that aren't hearing that message also deserve love. And I think a lot of people overlook that. But,
yeah. And so now the next part for me though, the biggest challenge is, I just said that this isn't circumstantial, and so the gospel doesn't pick and choose who gets it.
Right.
We've got to set up what a human trafficking victim goes to when they leave the industry is called a response network, and who is there available for them. We've got to start setting up a response network to get those pimps into a better situation where they're not doing that. And we've got to set up a response network for Johns, the guys who would go buy those women. Because this is just a vicious cycle. And unless that cycle's met with the gospel.
Right, you're only meeting one of the many parties involved.
Yeah, and so, man, when I see those Johns, like my stomach just turns and I just want to knock them out right there, but you know what? Like, that is not how Jesus would have reacted. And that's the next challenging part. That's where we got to move towards too. As Christians, that's what we got to move towards.
I mean, because it comes to the fact of, if it was someone that you knew, like what I said at the beginning of the show, you know, if something like that were to happen to Allison, I'd be on a plane in a heartbeat hunting that guy down. But, and that can't be, you know, that's the flesh and like our nature of, you know, thinking that we are the ones that control what happens to people, and we need to be the ones that take care of people, in like the bad sense, like hurting them, I guess you could actually have said. But yeah, I agree. That's definitely one of the more challenging aspects of it, definitely, because, I mean, no one's gonna greet someone with love that sells someone for sex, you know, and ruins lives every day. No one wants to greet that person with love and that kind of, I don't know, so.
That's where the church has to step up, because nobody else is. They're going to jail and they're going to get beat up in jail, and like, they're going to be killed. Yeah. But believe me, I'm right there with you. If anything happened to my little sister, I would beat the guy as far as I could before killing him. Like, yeah, I don't know, but the church is, I feel like the church is underreacting a little bit to this. And part of that's just because they don't know what's going on to the extent of this.
I want to go into this before we end, because we don't have much time left.
Okay.
Do you know what the relationship is between human trafficking and pornography?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. You know, I didn't look into that a whole lot for my project, mostly because the response network took up so much time, but like talking in the sense of just what I know biblically, whenever you make a human an object of pleasure, and like whenever that is how a relationship comes to be, it never bodes well for the people around you. And so you think about the lives that pornography can destroy, And really at the root of that is a lot of the same insecurities and problems that are at the root of human trafficking. And that's, you want intimacy and you don't know where to get it from. And you're not fulfilling it with a relationship with Christ, and you're not fulfilling it in a God relationship, a godly relationship with a person. And so it's just a twisted sense of intimacy and love and companionship. And my guess is if you talk to those Johns that would go buy these women, the root of their insecurity is that they can't find that love and companionship and intimacy. And so they go buy it. And I think a lot of what people who struggle with pornography would say is that some of the same issues, some of the same heart issues are where it's connected. And then at the same time, the gospel is the only thing that can fully fix that too. So it draws that parallel.
Do you think human trafficking is involved heavily in pornography?
Yes, actually I do. I once heard somebody speak who's smarter than me. Her name is Christine Kane, and she said that there's been research done, and probably about 80% of women used in international pornography are trafficked. And so it's just, it's staggering. I would say,
it affects more aspects and areas of our daily life than I feel like we fail to realize it. And I don't know, I'm not necessarily saying that a lot of people I feel like are neglectful just because, I said, I don't want to deal with that. I want to live my happy life. And I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of people are also ignorant in the fact of it. I think they don't really understand how serious it is. I mean, just any kind of video. I mean, even videos on YouTube, and they don't think anything of it. You never know how someone came to be on a video or anything of that matter. So,
yeah.
Is
But
there anything else that you wanted to add in the discussion?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about one more thing, kind of. But Ethan, as I said before, I told you kind of the gist of this a little while back when I introduced this idea to you. So, the 3 gaming drives we're going to do, we have a organization for all of them, and for our sex trafficking one, we don't really have one. We don't have a benefit to give to when we try and raise money for. So, in your opinion, is there one that you directly work with that you would like to see enabled with fundraising that could possibly make it better? Give them better resources, someone that you've seen firsthand that could use the help or use the extra notice or funds or anything of that matter?
Yeah. So you guys, just by the fact that you're in Hawaii and I'm in Kentucky right now, we're kind of got all of America covered right now. And so,
and Christian's in Virginia. Yeah, Christian on the West Coast or East Coast. You're in the middle, then I'm on the West. Well, I'm kind of in the ocean, but.
So there we go. So this is not a local human trafficking agency, but it is by far my favorite because everything I just talked about with it being gospel driven is this agency, and it's called Rescue One Global. And so Rescue One, they just moved into Tampa too, but they're based in Nashville. They are on the front lines of everything. They go over to Thailand, rescue children from the northern countries or northern parts of Thailand that are going to be sold into human trafficking, and they put them in orphanages and teach them English so that they can have high-paying jobs in Thailand because they know English. And then they can help support their family, and they support their family while they're going through that. And also in Nashville, women, just this past week, they had 5 women escape human trafficking and come into their safe houses and just asked to be prayed for, accepted Christ, and got off the streets, started, or they're looking for employment now. And so, absolute awesome ministry, and it's supported by churches, but it has always got to have more funds, because the week before, I think the whole month before, they had 3 women come to them. And then in 1 week, they had 5. So they are always needing more resources, because they pay out of pocket for houses that these women can go into, and safe houses that they can escape to. So
That's ridiculous.
It's
do
just
they
insane.
have do they have any kind of government funding, or is it all self-raised funding?
They have very little government supplement, because you guys know how the government works. If they're going to give you money, then they want their hands in it.
Right.
But
Right.
they fully realize that they can't do anything about human trafficking without the churches behind it. And so they just throw money at them to help, but they know that because of litigation and red tape, they are not equipped to help these women as well as the churches. And so I think they said something like 5% of their budget comes from the government, but, and some of that is grants that they have to try to earn anyway. So, yeah.
That's just, and like just a small thing. You're talking about that, the safe houses. You said Nashville, right?
Right.
That's in America, people. Like, open your eyes and realize what's going on around you. Stop living your day-to-day routine life and thinking that everything is, pandy-dandy, and, you're gonna go to sleep without any cares or any problems.
Yeah.
But, sorry, I just kind of had to rant for a second.
Well, America's a very self-centered culture.
Oh, without a doubt. We've definitely drifted, unfortunately, and I'm very fearful, but that's a different topic for a different day, so.
Alright,
Yeah,
so, Rescue One Global is an organization.
Is that a .org or a .com, or, how can we, is that a...
I am pretty sure it is
It's probably...
.org.
It is .org? Okay. Yeah, so it's just rescue1.org.
That's the number one, rescue1global.org.
Yes.
Alright, well, that is
Alright, so, Ethan, you said that you made a documentary?
Yeah.
Where can that be found?
It is www.2choices.org. And so, the full documentary is on there. And, I know because of Taylor's roots, we've got some, Ohio, Kentucky friends over here that might be listening to this. I have traveled pretty far, really, to present the documentary, present sections of it, and talk about it, kind of preach. So if that's something that anyone's church is interested in, then I would more than be happy to come out and present it. So,
Please have Ethan there. You can trust my word. I think you guys can. So,
yeah, 2choices.org, number 2.
All right. We'll be talking about that for a couple of weeks. But Ethan, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been awesome.
Yeah, dude, it was super. It was good to. It's good. Wow, my voice is cracked. You better cut that out.
I'm not cutting it out. You make fun of me for that all the time.
Anyways, yeah, definitely. It's nice to, God puts those people in your life that can benefit, and you can work together and just make something minuscule kind of well known. And I think that sex trafficking is one of those bigger things that we, as America, as a whole nation, need to really buckle down on and try and eliminate, and not just grab the girls like you said, but to kill a plant, you gotta take its root out.
Right.
So I think we need to, as dangerous and as scary as it may seem to some, we kind of have to hit it from the top and work to the bottom.
Right.
Because if we eliminate the ones that own them, then the women won't know what to do, and then the organizations can help and assist the women that don't have anywhere else to go. So,
yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm a fan of yours. You guys do great stuff.
Have you ever listened to the podcast, Ethan?
I have.
Really?
I have. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm not
wow.
much of a gamer, so I don't know really what you were talking about. I did listen.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're totally mega nerds. Like, it's okay. It's just one of those things.
Especially when me and Taylor start talking about Halo.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. So
I might be a gamer if I was good at it, but I'm way too competitive. I'm not good at it, so I just.
Hey, Christian sucks when he still plays.
No, I'm not as good as you at most things, but I'm still pretty good.
Whatever.
Anyways, let's go and wrap it up because I think Taylor's got somewhere to go. But listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you, Ethan, for being on the show. And,
yeah, so I wanna try and have Ethan on after we do our drive, so we can kind of, just kind of further go into it, since we'll have just recently touched on it once we do our drive and that kind of stuff. So
right,
awesome.
And I'll what's up?
Could I give my email address?
Sure,
from anyone who want to contact me.
Of course.
Wright, WRIGHT D7 at nku.edu. And so that's if you're interested in learning more or having the documentary shown or having me come speak. So feel free to contact me.
Wright D7 at nku.edu.
Yes, sir. That's it.
All right. I will put that in the description for the show. I'll also put www.twochoices.org and rescue1global.org.
Yes.
So anybody who wants that can find it. I'll put it on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, all that good stuff. So, yeah, thank you again, and hopefully we can do something good.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Ethan, usually when we end the show, we get somebody to say something funny or like a joke. You have anything?
Dang.
Oh my gosh.
I know you're on the spot right now.
Taylor didn't tell me any of this.
Good. That's why. Come on, just think of like your best joke. Think of, maybe one that you used on someone to kind of, woo them over. I don't know.
I mean, I never made a joke with Emily. I just made fun of her, so I haven't had to use a joke.
Wow. You don't have any jokes? This is discouraging.
All right. It's a pun. Can that work?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. So, two Norwegian men they just sent the first donut into space by attaching it to a weather balloon and having a camera focused on it. And, I'm just wondering why the national media is glazing over this.
Oh my god.
Oh, can you please stop the...
Yeah, that's it.
That's the last thing everyone's gonna hear is you're really bad.